YouTube is mad with Olympus reptiles. YouTube does this to me every time right now. Whenever we turn on a stream, did I turn my? Let me make sure I turn on my. I did. My Wi-Fi. It gets this little weird thing. So I'll tell you what. Stick with me. We'll be right back. What it makes me do is after I go live, I have to log out, log it back in, and then it won't be so like uh patchy. You know what I mean? Like frame by frame. And then we'll get to rolling. A lot to talk about today. We're going to try the new way. Sorry, it's in vertical. I'll explain why that is here in just a few moments. Bear with. All right, let's see. See, now it's smoother. So weird. I don't understand why it does that. What's going on, Brendan? So the reason we're in vertical today is because I thought we'd have some fun. Well, this ain't gonna be fun, actually. But I've got it set up where I can invite guests. So in case anybody is on here that has some direct knowledge of some of the situations we're going to be talking about, we want to be able to figure out a way to get them in here with us possibly. So that's what we're going to do. It's going to be a little bit different. Maybe make me a drink for talking. Hi, Shar. We're going to give a few minutes for people to show up, and then we're going to yeah, this is kind of a spur of the moment thing, y'all. So I'll explain, because this is going to be a very unlike Olympus Reptiles video. This is not the kind of video I like doing. It's not the kind of video I want to really do. But what's going on, Warples? Anna, Patrick, Adrian. But it is the kind of video that I think needs done. And so here we are. It's not going to be showing a lot of cool snakes, so if that's what you're here for, I'm sorry. But there has been a lot of, shall we say, chatter in the reptile community, reference of certain business, and that business is Slither Inc. Not to be confused with Slither, okay? So I want to be clear. There is a Slither, and there is a Slither Inc. Slither Inc. has been around a long, long time. That's what we're going to talk about today. Slither is a different dude who's been catching a whole lot of shit because of this over here. So just make sure if you're going to give a dude shit, we're going to give it to the right one, if you choose to. As always, I'm going to give you some places that you can go to get some information, where a lot of this information is posted. I haven't seen it all. I've been through a lot of it, and I've been through enough to make my decision, and make a decision so strong that I felt I needed to speak on it one way or the other. Okay. But we're going to give that to you and tell you where you can go to find that, so you can make your own decision. I'm not here to make your decision for you. I think, to me, it's a very, very simple decision. And we'll reveal ours in a minute. So I'm glad you're here, Dennis. Jojo. So here's the thing, and Tara, if I didn't mention you, Tara's a Tora. Hold on. It disappeared on me. Tora, sorry about that. So there's a Facebook group. That's kind of what got this kicked off for me, which is called the Slither Files, or the Slither Inc. Files, something like that. You can go find it. It'll pop up. I promise you. And there is a lot of pictures, videos, some funny memes, a lot of stuff on there you can go look at, and it's all going to be a reference to a gentleman named Samson Pruitt and his business, which is Slither Inc., which is a very, very large reticulated python breeder. Now, I don't work with retics. I've had retics, so I had part of the shop. Couldn't tell you where they came from. I mean, it was a shop thing. Retics aren't my jam. I'm not a big snake guy. I like my smaller pythons. I like my hots. I've never been a big snake guy. It's just not my thing, you know. They take up too much damn room, to be honest, and carrying them's a pain in the ass because they take up so much damn room. So it's just not my thing. But so I haven't been, you know, accidentally joined. Yeah. So I have not had much of an opportunity to, or need to, really cross paths with this human being or do business with this human being. But when I saw those posts, I saw it all kind of coming through Darian's Facebook a little bit, and then that's put me to the Slither Files. So I went and looked. I started digging in there, and there's some lamenting that no large names have really spoke out about it. We're not a large name. I'm not trying to say that's not my point, or small potatoes. But I thought, I don't like to be negative. I don't like to do videos about people. And you guys have heard me say, if I'm going to put somebody's name in my mouth, unless they've directly said something to me, like a troll in the comments, I'm going to say positive things. That's what I try to do. This is not going to be that day, y'all. And so let me tell you my only interaction with Slither Inc. And I wasn't even sure with Slither Inc. until I did some checking. I got sent some proof by some people, which is what I was really looking for, and what it was I was at a show in Colorado, and I'm not going to name drop other people because I'm not going to pull anybody else into the drama shit show unless they wanted to do that. And by the way, if anybody has direct knowledge, put it in the comments, and we will see if we can get you on here through the guest thing. I've never tried that before. I'm talking about if like you worked for him or you've been in his facility or you've got a direct story. Not I saw the pictures or not I talked to his third cousin, nothing like that. And we'll take all comers. Like I don't care if you think that this is bogus and blown out of proportion and bullshit and you want to say that. We'll let you on here. It's not going to change my opinion. I'll explain why my opinion will never change in a moment. But you're welcome to say something. We'll put you on here. It's not a gotcha moment. I can't tell you what the comment people are going to do. That ain't up to me. But I can tell you, I will always treat you respectfully and fairly. That's what I can tell you. I don't even fucking care if Samson wants to come on here. I'll treat him respectfully for the most part. But I will happily tell him if he can watch this if he wants to hear what I'm going to say. So the thing for me is, I was in Colorado and they had this really big table, right? I have seen that there's an interview with an ex-employee of his, but again, I would rather, if somebody's here, they want to jump in, that hasn't talked yet, or has already talked, by all means, hop in. We'll give you a few minutes or longer if we need to, just depending. And they had a big exhibit there, a lot of music going on. It was a really large exhibit, and I was like, I don't know who that is. And I got told, oh, that guy got convicted of dogfighting. And I thought, right there, I'm done. That's enough for me to not do business with you ever, buy from you, or anything like that. And the person was appalled that they were even there because they'd been convicted of dogfighting. Fast forward to now, that was years and years ago. I thought, man, I think that's the same company. I got sent the article where, in fact, it is the same company. So Samson Pruitt, and this is where it's not speculating. You can take a picture out of context, or you can take pictures that were taken over a term of years, although it looks really, really bad still in his case, and maybe put some spin on it. I mean, that's what politicians do all the time to make it look one way or worse than it is or whatever, and so I try to give the benefit of the doubt. I remember that happened to a good friend of mine in this hobby, somebody that I consider a mentor, and there was being things said about him that were absolutely not true, and he's very large. Even things like, oh, he just stomps on bearded dragons, which is total bullshit from an ex-employee who was pissed. So I always go with a grain of salt. When you can read an article, and Samson Pruitt had dogs seized from him in one of the largest seizures ever in the state he was living in, only to be outdone by himself later, and was convicted of, there was a drug crime in there, but that's not what this is about. We're animal people, so I'm not even getting into the drug stuff. That's not part of what I'm worried about here, But you get convicted of raising fighting dogs. You are fighting dogs. That is the lowest of the low in the animal world. I can forgive a mistake. I've made them. We've all made them. I can forgive, like, oh, I forgot to do this, or I didn't understand this, and I screwed this up. But fighting dogs is a conscious decision, right? He chose to fight dogs. And when he got in trouble, he doubled down, and he chose to do it again. So he's been convicted twice of cruelty to animals involving dog fighting. I want to say one of the seizures was like 90 dogs, 90 pit bulls, So that's who we're dealing with. That, for me alone, besides all the pictures on the Slither files, and again, from doing some investigative work in my life, I always want to look at both sides and find the middle and find the truth and find what really happened and where that was and over what time. And I'm not going to be able to do that on that because it's, But the dogfighting's convictions. It isn't speculation. It isn't, well, did he or didn't he, or maybe, or he was accused. Fuck no, he was convicted of fighting dogs. Again, twice. So like, there, if you read the report, he was burning dogs. There you go. It's even worse, I don't get why we let him back in the animal hobby in the first place. I don't get why he's here. I don't get why he was allowed to own animals and possess animals and build a breeding business. You know, why? Why is that allowed? Why does anybody think that that's okay? You know, and I get it. People deserve a second chance. And honestly, even after Samson is arrested for dogfighting, like Michael Vick, if he does his time and learns his lesson, you know what? People deserve a second chance. But not in this industry. You can get a second chance and you can go buy a fucking McDonald's or some shit. You don't need to be in an animal industry when you are convicted of dogfighting. Would never own a dog again because of the temptation. How the fuck is that a temptation? Like, you're just it's mind-boggling. I could not imagine putting my dog in a pit to watch a fight for sport. Ever. 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 You know, this to me, letting him back in the animal hobby is the same as if you had a person who was convicted of, say, possession of child porn. Okay? Horrible, horrible thing. They did their time. They were released from prison, and then they went to work in your child's school. Would you be okay with that shit? Fuck no, you wouldn't. Those people shouldn't work around children. They shouldn't. They shouldn't be given that opportunity. Yet we give this guy an opportunity to work with animals again. So there's a few places I know have stood up. I know he has been banned from the Show Me Reptile shows for quite some time. That's awesome. I know he's been banned from Morph Market. That's awesome. You know, you just can't. You can't do it. You know what I mean? You can't do it. 50 adult female retics in 2018, 500 by 2022. Is that how many you're saying he had? Both convictions within a few years of each other on the dog fighting. But that's enough. One's enough. You're fighting dogs. You shouldn't work in the animal industry. Done. Done. You know, like, you've already shown that those animals to you are nothing but a commodity. Commodity to be gambled on at that point, you know? So they seized his animals. Yeah, he had a conviction. He probably didn't go to trial. I don't have that information, so I'm not going to say he got convicted by a jury. It may have been something that got pled down and all of that. I know there was probation. I know he served time because he failed on his probation, from what I read in the article. It was the two largest dog seizures in that state. The first one was large, and the second was actually bigger. So, you know, that's that. Like, this is not a guy we should be doing business with. So my other thought would be this. Look, if you bought something from him, you know, pled guilty is guilty. I'm not pleading guilty unless I did something, you know, especially to something like that where I want to work in the animal industry. If I was accused of something like that when I want to have a career in the animal industry, I'm going to fight tooth and nail if I didn't do it. 100%. I mean, there's no fight. That's why he pled guilty. He got 90 dogs, right? They've got half barrels for kennels. They're chained all over the place, and they've got scars. That's why he pled guilty. What are you going to argue? I didn't know that was happening. I mean, fucking come on, you know. So he's guilty. He's guilty. And if you bought something from him, I don't want you feeling like you fucked up, because if you didn't know that that's who you're dealing with, this guy's a twice convicted animal abuser, you didn't know. If you tried to help him and you didn't know this guy was a twice convicted animal abuser, you didn't know. But here is one thing I'll say. For anybody out there, so I've heard rumors of it, and again, it's rumors. So with it being rumors and not confirmed, I will not drop names, because I am not going to put somebody on blast, tear somebody down, or cause somebody a problem. Oh yeah, congratulations for the Clutch Children's Python. That's badass. Without having proof. It's not my style. I'll let others do that. We have people in this hobby that already fly off and say shit that isn't true because they talk out their asshole, which I've had done about me before. I had to come back and be like, bullshit, and here's why, because I have the proof of it. But so I won't say this guy helped him and this guy helped. I'm not gonna get into that. But what I will say is, if you knew who he was, and that he had been convicted of dogfighting, which it wasn't a secret, somebody just told me at a show, right? A friend of mine at a show, it's like, oh yeah, that guy, this, you know. So it's not like it was hidden. And you still chose to help him, right? And you still chose to indulge him or work for him or whatever. Shame on you, you know, like, Shame on you to help a person like that. Like, be in this hobby. Why would we do that? So, I don't. I literally am asking as a question. I literally don't know why anybody would say, "Hey, this guy's been convicted of dogfighting twice, but you know what? He needs help getting into reticulated pythons." It, I'll be honest. If that dude reached out to me and wanted to buy something, I didn't know who he was. Fuck him. And I knew who he was. Sorry, if I didn't know who he was, it's out of my control. If I knew who he was, fuck him. I ain't selling to him. Like, I'm not doing it. And I'm not a guy that is like, oh, you got to screen every customer, the nth degree, and make sure. I mean, people can do that their own, but I'm not doing that. And I believe it was a Repticon I saw him at, but that was years ago. And so I'm not ripping Repticon because I don't know if they banned him or not, but that was a long time ago. And I know it was a kind of a surprise. So yeah. So basically what I wanted to. So Tracy, I'm going to read that comment really quick because I do want to cover that because I do think, we've got to be very careful in that. And what Tracy's saying is there's been so much hate being spewed at Garrett Hartle, Kevin McCurley, and a handful of other breeders. That is exactly why I'm not going to say names because I can't tell you for sure their involvement with him, or whether it exists or not, what happened or not, what they knew or not, and everything else. And what we have to be careful of in this hobby is becoming witch hunters, okay? But what I mean by that is just because you're big or you're well known does not mean you're bad. I'm gonna use Kevin for my example, man. Kevin's been in this industry for probably 30 or 40 years, right? Over the time of 30 or 40 years, has Kevin made mistakes? Yeah. I've only been in it actively really kicking, not kicking ass at, but really attempting to build something more than just kind of a hobby for 4 or 5. And before that, we were just fucking around. And I've made mistakes. So, I mean, I can't grill him over that. Does Kevin keep his animals like that? I'm sure he doesn't. Has he had a shit employee before? He probably has, but he probably got rid of them. If those, that is one thing I will say I don't get. And that is one thing you can go on the Slither files and you can read his response. And one thing I've never understood is, if you're an employee, why are you taking pictures and then working there for 3 or 4 months and then taking pictures? What the fuck? Fix it or leave and bring it to attention now. It shouldn't wait. But that's just my thought. I'm sure there's a reason behind it, and I'm not going to judge them either. But without knowing what they knew or why, I don't want it to become a witch hunt for everybody who's ever done something or ever made a mistake, because we all have. And that's kind of that thing, not to get overly biblical on you, but the old he without sin cast the first stone, and nobody's going to throw a rock because we've all fucked up, right? But there's a difference in that and multiple convictions for animal abuse. We don't want that in the hobby. We don't need that in the hobby. That is a time for us all to stand up and say no. And the way it has to get done is not just ban him in places, because he will still be allowed to exist, unfortunately, but to never purchase from him, no matter what, and not even under the one saving the animals thing. If he contacts you or you contact somebody and they're like, oh man, I just got to move these animals, I need money. You know what? I will take the animals for free because you shouldn't have them. And then I will do whatever. And if you want to take them, then I want one. You want to sell them and donate it to an animal charity. Try that. But don't give him money. Don't give him money. Don't give his wife money. And I know he's saying don't blame her, don't do this. I don't know what she knew. I know in the Slither files it appears she knew quite a bit, but I don't know her personally, so I don't know. But if they're still together, you give one of them money or give the other one money. Right? That's how it works. Not like those bills ain't getting paid. So these people have to be they need to be canceled. But we do, as a hobby, have to be careful of not just becoming, I heard one time in 1985, Kevin did this. We need to get rid of him, So I tell you, Kevin does some really great work. Everybody's had mistakes. Garrett Hartle, I don't know Garrett personally. I don't really know Kevin that well personally. I've exchanged comments with him and I've watched him. I've seen things. Garrett's and he's extremely knowledgeable about dwarf retics. I've seen his facility in videos. It gets shown kind of like ours does. I mean, we don't like everything, but we show it. It's there. It's not hidden. You know what I mean? And as far as being mad at Kevin for Spider, that's bullshit. Some people don't understand Spider. Anybody who's pissed about Spider better stop breeding champagne and spot nose. And so that means all those clown combos you like with spot nose should be out the door if you hate Spider, because guess what? Spot nose can tick too. So I just throwing that out there. That's okay if people don't want to have Spider. That's fine. We all make our choices. But to be mad and like hating Kevin because he's the first one to get Spider, come on, man. That's also like 25 years ago, and anybody else would have done that too in the hobby at that time. Guarantee you. So he may have not known on Samson's care. The only thing I'll say, and this is a me personal thing, okay? And what my values are going to be different than other people's values, and that's okay. It's okay. But if I knew that he is a convicted animal abuser, a double convicted for dog fighting, I'm not going to help him or work with him or sell to him or buy from him, period. Others may choose to do that, and I disagree with that choice, but I can also disagree with that choice and still respect them as a person, because they're not the one doing that. And they may have their reasons. Maybe they know him, they really truly believed he changed. Well, obviously he hasn't. Obviously we're still here. And, so mutual respect goes a long way. And again, I'm not saying, we need to, I'm just saying that guy should never work with animals. That's my feeling. If there's enough for another criminal charge, I hope it happens, and I hope it's investigated. And if it warrants a conviction, I hope a conviction is late. I do. That goes for anybody, as long as it's legit, you know what I mean? But you can't fight dogs and then just transition into working snakes. You can't do it. You just can't do it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm gonna say I like him, and that's my only thing on the pump the brakes is we don't want to become a witch hunt of, oh, we got this guy and he's gone. Who do we need to take down next? Who do we need to take down? We don't want to be that way. That's what I call a true cancel culture. We're just looking for a reason to cancel people. That's not what we're doing here. The evidence is pretty damning. I mean, if you want to go look at the pictures and the video, if you can stomach all of it, go for it. The one thing I'll say I don't know is the length of time in which those pictures were taken. Is it over the course of a month? Because if it is, holy shit, it's horrible. Over the course of a few years, still horrible. Or was it a rescue? The one with the face that looks like it's been caved in? Was that something we rescued, or how did the face get that way? Those kind of things that I don't know. And that's where picture and context is important, right? So that's the thing. But we do certainly know that an animal abuser is there. So hold on a second. Oh, I'll give that. I saw a text come out that maybe we had somebody who was wanting to join in here and was asking about shipping. We wanted to look at shipping on tomorrow, which we might be able to do. Weather looks good. Pissed off at FedEx anyway. On who's the Rob? I guess on Bob. Well, I want to be clear too. When I think, when it comes to Bob, we got to be clear. There's a few Bobs who are fairly well known at large on what Bob is being talked about, because I don't want that to get clear. And I can tell you, I believe, the conversations were a reference to a Bob Clark, and the only reason I'm bringing that up, and again, I don't know Bob Clark, so I'm not going to rip on Bob Clark. Again, I don't want it to be a witch hunt, but when people say just Bob, especially with a lot of the newer crowd in reptiles, who see a lot of social media and things like that, you're going to have a dude named Bob Vu pop to the first part of your head. And I don't want Bob Vu to take either, Bob Clark should get the credit or the damnation he deserves, and Bob Vu should get the credit or damnation he deserves. So we ought to be clear who we're talking about. Kind of like, I don't want a Slither Inc. and Slither thing, for instance. What I can tell you about those two dudes is Bob Vu's a pretty cool guy, and makes some amazing fucking snakes. Bob Clark has been at this forever and a day. He's more in the large snake crowd than the small snake crowd, so I don't know a whole lot about him, and I'm not going to speak ill of him either. I can't tell you that he produced a snake that, as a kid, got me thinking about doing something like this one day when he produced the first lavender albino retix with that beautiful purple and gold. It just blew my mind. So I do owe Bob Clark credit attitude. So that's where I'm at. All right. Do you guys have any questions or anything you want to be addressed? Or if we have anybody who wants to join, let me know. If not, then we'll probably end up hopping off of here, sliding over to Patreon here in a few minutes, and maybe sharing what's happened since I've been gone. So I was gone for a few days for a family reunion. So I just took a bit to get up. And then I didn't want to take time to make a video and have it set for a week and then get put up. And it needed to happen now. It needed to happen pronto. So I was waiting to do me a favor, like this and do all that. That way it can keep going up there so other people will see it and get to hear what we think about Slither Inc., which is that they should slither the fuck on out of here, because you can't be a dog fighter and then tell me that you're great with reptiles, and be a convicted dog fighter and then tell me, when you're a convicted dog fighter, all those excuses, where I would want to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, to say, maybe they were really trying this in a hard spot, go out the window. You're a convicted dog fighter. You have a history of being an asshole to animals. So yeah. I don't know Rob Clark either. Like I say, they run more in circles of like large constrictors than what I do. So I don't know anything. But I just don't want Bob Clark and Bob Vu to get confused, because that wouldn't be fair to either Bob. And Bob is very active on Bob Vu. See, there I did it. Is very active on social media and makes badass shit. So I just want to make sure that somebody has a problem that doesn't get there. The best way to reach me, honestly, Patreon. I gotta get that little self-advertising there, right? It's a great way to reach us. And that's honestly probably the best way, or just shoot me a text. My phone number's out there and easy to find. I'm not going to just slap it down here, but if you look, you'll find it. Or just, comment on one of our YouTube videos and I'll get back with you. I'd say send me a message on Facebook. That's so full, I don't ever get to all of it. So it's kind of a hard thing, to be honest. And I don't mean it to be that way on purpose. It got very difficult having influx for a while of people contacting, so we had to slow that down because I've got multiple jobs and things I'm doing. It might make it easier here soon. Greetings from Poland. I'm glad to have you here from Poland. Yeah, there's no excuse. I'm with you, Tracy. When you've been convicted, I mean, when somebody else would tell me that, like, oh, I was gone for 4 days and I had the employees I expected to take care of. I came back. It was a complete other fucking mess. They didn't do anything. So I fired, the 2 people who were supposed to be watching it. I spent the next week correcting it, because that's his only job, right? He didn't have anything else he does, I don't think. Okay, I might buy that. When you're a convicted dog fighter and you're telling me you left and it was really bad because of what an employee did, so you reprimanded the employee. Now, if I came back there, there's no reprimand. You're fired. Period. So I don't buy that excuse. I think it's bullshit. But that's just me. Especially convicted dog fighter. You don't give a shit about animal lives. You literally put them in a pit to watch them fight to death. And not for consumption. I mean, let's say, well, you feed rats to snakes and they kill those and eat them. Yeah, I do. They got to eat. I also feed my dog food made out of protein, which is made up from ground cow, chicken, horse, and whatever the fuck else they put in dog food. I don't mind an animal eating. But putting 2 animals in a pit to see which one can kill the other for sport, because you're gambling on it, well, just fuck you, man. That's all I can get to that. There's no redeeming point to that. And it's funny, because in his whole manifesto response, which I did read all 17 screenshots of that, I think it was, there wasn't one mention of the dogfighting. We still want to just gloss over that. That's in the past. It ain't in your past, bro. You're still doing shit like that. All you care about is making a buck. Like, it is what it is, No, that mess wasn't a few days worth. He probably will not get locked up for life. The law is never going to look at animals that way. Maybe it should in some instances. But I hope, as part of it, he would be banned from ever owning an animal again. Period. Like any house he lives in can't have an animal or any work facility. So thank you, Dennis. I appreciate it. I know I appreciate that a lot, man. I really do. So, and I agree. I think that's exactly what it was. And a lot of those are the pictures I saw. So yeah, Blue Line. I don't know if he ran the pit. Okay. I don't want to speak wrong. And, Blue Line, you're the same as me, man. You've been in working shit for a long time, way more than I have with where you're at, brother. So like pictures don't always tell the whole thing. A body cam only sees a part. So I always try to like pull back and not jump to those conclusions, like because you got to find the actual truth. But yeah, he's been convicted of dogfighting twice. I don't know if he ran the pit, but I want to say one of the seizures was 90 plus dogs. So evidence would point to if he didn't run the pit, he was a big player wherever the pit was. It wasn't like one or two dogs, which even that is reprehensible, right? Uh, but yeah, brother, he was fighting dogs. Ain't no doubt about it. Zero doubts at all. Um, not once. Didn't happen, and I learned happened consistently. So some of them have. Some of them have. You know, uh, and it could have been on property. I don't know on the dogfighting thing. Yeah, and I've seen animals like there's one in particular. Oh, this is a terrible story, but I'll share it with you. We had a what was it? It was a prairie or a Massey we had. Still got Masseys and prairies, right? So, but we had was it a prairie? We had one of them. We went to feed and it struck and it actually bit itself in the side, right? And I thought, fuck, I'll have to come back and check that, tomorrow because that's not a good thing. And that snake, because of the venom, like it died. I mean, they're not immune to their own venom, right? And its front end and back end was still pretty fresh. The whole middle rotted within 24 hours because of what the venom does to the. So, like, under certain circumstances, animals can decompose rather rapidly, especially if it's warm and humid, or it's an envenomation. But yeah, some of those animals have been there a long time. Um, now could that be employee based? Again, I don't know how big that dude's collection is. I mean, if you've got 20,000 animals, you're not seeing all your animals. Other people are. That's a fact of it. Uh, there's no way to do it. That's why you have 15, 20 employees, right? And so you could have a bad employee that causes some of that. But they ought to be canned. And man, I'd be right out in the reptile community if that happened to me saying, look, this is a person I wouldn't hire. This is why. I had to fire them. I had to part with my business because X, Y, and Z, all of that. So, yeah, it just kind of sucks. But man, I don't think his collection's 30,000 snakes strong. I don't know how big it is. I know he's a large breeder, but I don't know. And I've heard he does a lot of wholesale sales and other people sell at shows, but I don't know who those other people are. So that would be the one thing. So, uh, yeah, a mummified snake having a fresh bowl of water is pretty weird, So, a picture on the dog fighting? Yeah, I don't want to see a picture of dog fighting. I already know in my brain how that's going to look, and I don't need to see more of it. I've seen enough of that shit over my lifetime. There's a reason why I'm leaving the profession I'm leaving, and honest to God, I didn't look at all the pictures in the files. I saw enough of what I needed to see, along with the dogfighting, to make my decision, and I was done because I've seen enough of that in my life. And I don't really care to see a lot more. I mean, I'm not talking just in animals. I mean, I've seen human bodies being decomposed and consumed by maggots to the point they're leaking. It's not a fun sight. I've done it more than once. Um, and I'm good with it. I've seen enough of that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to see that anymore. So, and some of those were so, uh, you were supposed to go to animal cruelty. Oh, couldn't do it. Like for training, you mean, or for unit? Probably for the unit. Yeah, I get it. That'd be hard. We don't have that. So we have our animal control where I'm at is separate from our main office. They want to combine it. Our main office doesn't want to combine it. Like it's a completely separate agency. One is controlled by the city, one isn't. And yeah, I'd have a hard time. I distinctly remember helping our animal control because animal control isn't certified law enforcement. So every now we have to go help them if it takes that. And I had to do some search warrants for them and write some search warrants to force entry into a house. And we force entry into a house, and I still see this guy. And I mean, I have to like take a few deep breaths and like make myself behave. Once we forced our way, and the animal control had thrown a bag of food into the window because the dogs were starving, And when we got in there, unfortunately, that door had been blockaded, so the food didn't get to the dogs. We found 4 dogs, 2 of which had been deceased, and it begun decomposition because it was hot. Surprised they weren't eaten. And 2 Great Danes. And they were the skinniest Great Danes I have ever seen. Scared shitless. They went to the shelter. They got treated. They got adopted out. I followed up on that to make sure they weren't euthanized. But I fucking hate that guy. Man, I hate that because those images of those dogs' ribs just in the hips, of all the things that I've seen that'll be with me for a long time, that is one that haunts the shit out of me. And then the smaller dogs that just didn't have enough meat to survive that long that had just died. I mean, just horrible, man. So yeah, I have a soft spot for that. I am not going to do business with people that think it's fun to hurt dogs. Or in that guy's case, which after I broke into his house forcefully, because that's my job. My job was to break into his house forcefully, and I took his shit. We are required to leave him a note that explains it, and then charged him, obviously, with everything. I mean, and a lot of times too, those charges get watered down with agreeing to surrender the animals so they can get the animals help sooner. Which is unfortunate but fortunate. It's just, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. So, I'll never do business with somebody like that because he can watch a dog get torn to pieces in front of his eyes and laugh like it's a fucking sport. Nope. Sorry, man. For me, you're out. You're just out. That's it. So yeah. Oh, she got one of his dogs that was meant to be a fight dog. Yeah. Oh, not his dog. Different case in Maryland. Now I'm tracking. So some were alive in the pics that were just in crappy conditions. I saw some of the dead. I got tired of seeing it and thought, I'm gonna just add more trauma to my already fucked up brain. So we're not gonna do that. So yeah. Yeah, a lot of them do have to be euthanized, sure. And those dogs were on the fence of it. And they were beautiful. One was a brindle, the other one, I can't remember what color it was. Just gorgeous dogs. And they were so afraid, but the minute they realized we weren't there to hurt them, they just came right away. We're good, and there has been some, I would say, justice served by people, well, not people, entities above me on the individual that did that. So non-human spiritual kind. So it's okay. You know what I mean? It's okay. So all right, guys. Hey man, you too. Good to see you. I ain't talked to you forever, my brother. Hey, just so you know, this is my last month, and then I am out, my man. I am done. 25 years. I am gone. So I'll get to be a little more free when I speak, and just some other things. I'm excited about that, and it'll be good. It'll be good for my health. So bait dog, yeah, bait dogs. That's not something to talk about. Yeah. So anyway, y'all, on that note, give you a moment to ask some questions if you want, or put in your own 2 cents. Is there anybody here who thinks we're being too hard on Slither Inc. and that Slither Inc. deserves a second chance? I can tell you right now, post it. I'm in disagreement with you. I don't think we're being too hard. I think they need to fucking go from the reptile industry and the animal industry as a whole, and nobody should ever do business with them again. But you are allowed to your opinion. I will hear your opinion. I'm not going to rip into you. I'm not going to make fun of you. Everybody deserves to have an opinion, including you. So, the cliff of what they did and why. So Slither Inc., there's a whole Slither files you can find on Facebook. You can see all the shit and the care and the issues there and that and the dead animals and whatnot. Some of which honestly don't have full context with the photo. You're just going to get to look through it and then read some things, But he is a convicted. This is Samson Pruitt we're talking of. And Slither Inc. is different than just Slither for the Cliff Note version. He is a twice convicted dog fighter. So, of pit bulls. So there you are. That's the Cliff Notes version. That's why I don't think he has a place at the table anymore. He shouldn't have got a place at the table the first time he was convicted of dogfighting. To me, if you're convicted of dogfighting, that is it. You should not be in a career with animals. Second chance at life, sure. Career with animals, no. It's like letting somebody who has a crime against children work in a school. You don't do that. You just don't do that. Period. So found him, did you, Roberto? Or Roberto. Sorry, got that name completely fucked up. I've been hanging out with my nephews. One of my older nephews' name was Robert, so it came out. My bad. I apologize. Some of his videos, he always on his van. Well, because he can't go to most shows, bro. So that's why he's on the van, because most shows have banned him by now. He has made statements. Brendan, he put out a long Facebook manifesto to somebody. And it is posted there in the Slither files. It's all screenshotted, posted in full. I do recommend, if you're going to go through there and dig through the pictures, take the time to read that. At least peruse it. I mean, every man deserves to have his word said, but I don't think his word helps him much. It's all, don't blame my wife, only blame me. Well, I'm sorry. She married a dog fighter. She's still married to you. She doesn't deserve to be in the animal hobby either. What's going on? Because that's still you. My family is an extension of me, and I'm an extension of my family. We're all in it together, right? And then the other thing, it is like 17. It is long. It's really long. It's bad. Yeah, but you should read it. I mean, that way you can hear what he has to say. The first thing says, "I'll take my responsibility for my actions," and he didn't. It was all somebody else's fault, or the weather's fault, or a failure's fault. About the only thing he took responsibility for, I think, was an issue with Tegu's that he was, I guess, in some bus that he's got set to cool things or whatnot. I don't know, like for brumation. Some woke up and he didn't. You can read that for yourself. But no mention of the dogfighting convictions. No mention of that. We don't want to talk about that. It is what it is. It's yeah. And at the end of the day, and this, you guys have heard me say a lot of times, and I'll say it again for the record right now. Do I want to grow my ball python business? Sure. Sure I do. That's what we're working on now. We finally got somewhat serious about it, and it's still fun for us. We're growing it. Do I want to grow it to the point I have to keep multiple employees? Nope. No, I don't. I don't ever want to be that big. I have zero desire to be that big. Other people do. That's fine. It's okay. Not for me. There's a size I want to be, so I can be hands-on with everything. But part of that is because I don't care if you're big and you have 15 employees, they're your employees. You hired them. What they do is a reflection of you. It can't just be, oh, well, my employees. Well, if that's the case, why are they still there? You know what I mean? Like you can't say, well, I reprimanded them. I was just trying to help them. Look, I would hire somebody who I was trying to help, but the minute they started interfering with my animals or fucking my business over, there's a door, asshole. Like, I'm not doing that. So I don't buy that excuse at all, because I think would I sit there and let this continue and just, why I reprimanded them? Or it was one like, I saw where somebody said that, oh, well, so-and-so ran the baby room. They wouldn't let anybody in. And so we couldn't get in until how in the fuck is an employee not going to let me into my own baby room? Good fucking luck with that. My God, like, it's asinine, y'all. It's asinine. It's asinine, stupid. And it's just, it's bad. It's bad. So, all right. Beaches and Oceanside. Nice. I'm going the opposite direction here in a few to go to Florida for a bit. What about Cass? So Cass is the wife, his wife, I believe. I think. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that, from what I can tell reading. I have a hard time believing you live there on property and you know nothing. And you're taking pictures with all these snakes and things like that, and you know nothing. And even if she did know nothing, at this point, she should be out of the hobby too, because she's still with him. And he is a convicted dog fighter. Enough said. And if she really truly didn't know anything and she wants to be in the hobby, then he needs to be 100 miles away, right? Because that's not working. And he also said it wasn't her fault. She hadn't worked there in so long and couldn't work there due to health issues and ran on that. Don't know. I don't know anybody else's health issues. Or I don't mind half the time. But I don't know how you could not know. She knew she married a dog fighter. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, there you go. If not, she should have. I mean, I would Google anybody I was going to marry. Just throwing that out there. 19, and he was like 50 when they got together. Oh, I don't know about that, and I'm not going to get anybody's age gap. That's on them, And if you listen to the employees, there's some other weird, like, Doc Antle kind of shit that's being said. And I don't know about any of that. That you can research on your own. I'm not going to say that's false or true because I don't have the knowledge of it. Right? Again, I don't like to be negative. It's not my jam. Right? We chose to be negative today because I think it's important. I want people to know that this man and what he is, that he's been convicted of, not just the specters of photos, not something can wash away. He's been convicted of twice. And that should be enough, in my eyes, for anybody not to do business with him or him to be in the reptile hobby or reach a helping hand out to him. The only help he should be given is getting rid of his animals without a profit. Like, yep, um, because he doesn't need to have them. He's shown that. He doesn't deserve to have them. Having animals, to me, is a privilege, right? Whether it's for a business or just for your own pleasure, it's a privilege. Um, excuse me, I owe it to my animals to the best I can. That doesn't mean I won't fail them from time to time. I will fuck up. It's going to happen. It's going to happen again. I need to always try to learn from my screw ups and move forward and try to improve my craft fine breeding. I should be trying to improve, my percentage of babies that make it full term. If I'm losing too much on percentage of eggs, I need to be trying to improve that. If I'm losing too many babies, I need to be trying to improve that. I need to be looking at, like, if my equipment fails, not just my equipment failed. It's, hey, if my equipment's failing, I need to fix that or figure out what's going on and make it work right or replace it. Like, those are the things that we ought to be doing. And if we can't do that, if we've grown to a point we can't do that, then we have too much. We have too much. We have to downsize. That's part of why I always advocate growing slowly, knowing you can keep up with what you have, as opposed to just no holds barred, and then it's so overwhelming. That's just my way of doing things. But those mistakes can be learned from a movement on. The dogfighting can't. So, something like that. But on the numbers, when I read the whole thing, and again, I want to make sure what I'm speaking is truth, right? Truth. On that, yeah. And babies, you can lose a decent percentage of babies sometimes. It'll happen. You have a clutch that's just not very strong or whatnot. I mean, it happens. We have it happen. That's one of the things that we constantly want to fight with and try to always improve upon because it happens more than I like. But adults, it's a rarity that I lose an adult python. We're getting to a point now we'll have it happen a little more because some of our snakes are starting to get older. And you're like, well, you just said, yeah, but there's snakes some of my bought as adults, right? And I didn't buy a huge collection. Some of them I know are like in the teens and 20s. And, they can live longer than that. That's also when certain things start to show up more, but we have lost adult, but it's a rarity. We have about 170, not including babies in here, I think, that we keep or raise. And it's not like I'm losing 17 adults a year. Nowhere remotely close to that. Half of it, like not half of it in most years. We don't lose many adults. But I want to say in his comments, the 10% thing was just according to him, a number he chose to make the math easy, which I've also used that statement before. It's easy to think of 10 out of 100. It's easy math. So was that his actual percentage? I don't think that's what he's saying, but I don't know what it was, but it was way too many. And usually when I lose an adult, I know why. And I try to figure out why did I lose an adult? What can I do to prevent it? The last adult, for an example, that I lost was a female adult carpet python, right? Who's a proven breeder for me. I love that snake. She was great. And we actually had moved her. We had her in a cage that was, I wanted to give her more height, more climbing space. So we built a system and we moved her. We had the heater hooked up, pedal run. It was running great, working good. She was eating. We didn't make it too crazy in there first. We want to get her settled in and make more and more stuff for her to deal with. We were going to use it for moving her male to breeding, and we used a over the head heater. Right, it's very common for those kind of cages, which you kind of want. Run on a thermostat, the whole 9 yards. Unfortunately, I did not use like a herbstat on that one. I just used a regular thermostat because I had one laying around, and that was probably a failing. that would have saved my ass if I had done that different. And there's a plug that plugs in and it locks in place, right? So we had that all plugged in and locked. Well, somehow, I mean, because the cord goes in, she goes to pull that every now and then. It came unplugged and we didn't see it, and her heat got really low. And that's what did it. We didn't know her heat was not pushing because everything looked fine, and she got cool in the winter and passed. So yeah, it probably was Cruella's mom. And so now I have to get another female carpet python. So what will I do different? Well, obviously, when we use that, we'll use not that thermostat, one with an alarm, because that will help let us know. Sometimes there's nobody here for a few days, right? So what else we'll do is I'm not going to use that little plastic lock only. I will find another way to brace that in there and or run the cord so that she can't possibly do that. So the point I'm making is we had a loss. It's on us. We're going to learn what caused that loss, and we're going to make sure that type of loss doesn't happen again. That's how you're supposed to do it, you know. It's you know, and I was pretty pissed when that happened. It wasn't just like, oh well, fuck, that happens. No, I was pissed. I was pissed at myself. I was pissed at the situation. I was pissed. I went and looked at the cage. How did I not notice it? It's because where the cage was. When I'm standing there from an angle, or I can't even see that cord. Fuck, you know, like those kind of things. So like, you learn and you try to improve. And I don't think he was doing that. I think he was just, as long as it makes this, who gives a fuck? And that is absolutely not what we need in the hobby. All right, guys. Anything else before we hop up off of here? And you will eventually, Southern Maryland. It sucks. It sucks when you do. You know, the most of our losses are from the really young ones, and that's just because more can go wrong there. You know, and it can go wrong faster. But it's rare we lose an adult. You know, the last ball python adult we lost, I think, was I haven't lost any from this season. It was a previous season, and she was a snake that I don't know how old she was. She was old, probably my oldest one, because I had got her circa, I hadn't bought my house yet. It's probably 2013. She was a full-size adult, and she was a full-size adult when the guy I got her from got her, and he'd had her for 5 years. So I don't really know how old she was, and she just went downhill, and, you know, there was an internal issue there that was beyond saving. And she's a normal, you know, and like, it still sucks, you know. I mean, I was a 20-plus-year-old snake, most likely. Could have been pushing over 30 for all I know, because I'd had her for 8, and I had her for at least 5. That was like 13 or 14, then probably, I had her, yeah, about, was it 8? Yeah. And then at least, and then another guy had her long enough to grow her up, so at least 3 or 4. So I mean, at the low end, we're pushing 20. At the high end, we're much older. So, and she was in a shit show of a condition when I got her. So, you know, it is what it is. It does happen. It just sucks every time. Shouldn't be normal. Shouldn't be normal to lose adults. Now, if you have a collection of 10,000 compared to my collection of 170, yes, you're going to have more adults you lose. You know, but that should kind of scale up with size, right? It shouldn't be like, oh, well, I have 10,000, so I lose 10%. That's fine. No, that shouldn't be the case. They shouldn't have fucked up faces all the time that are caved in either. That's bad. So, no, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, y'all can watch together, Shar. Oh, I'll you know what? I'll take the 2 views, so I'm not going to worry about it. All right, guys, I'm going to get off of here. My only thing I'm going to say before I go and slip over to Patreon is, there you have it, man. Slither Inc. needs to be gone. So my request would be, don't do any business with them. Don't buy from them. If you find somebody that you're buying from, buy from them and resells. Don't buy from that person either until they quit doing business with them. As a whole, we need to get animal abusers, especially animal abusers that are chronic animal abusers, out of this hobby. Out. So that's what we need to do. So like that would be my ask. You've seen my reasons. Go join the Slither Files. See for yourself. Don't just take what I have to say. Do your own research, right? Go check it out. You'll see, and go from there. So then we might, you know, I love doing venomous content. I do, but it just nobody views it, nobody watches it. Here's the thing with venomous content. There's two kinds of venomous content. One is like, hey, we're going to show you how to be careful with these venomous snakes. We're going to maybe pick them up with hook and tail method and all these things and do it the right and safe way. Viper Keeper, pretty good guy at doing that, has a lot of views. But that's not what gets viewed anymore. What gets viewed now is, hey, watch me free handle these things and throw them around in circles and do this and do that. And that's what gets put out there now. And that's what gets used. And I'm not doing that shit. I can free handle snakes. I have free handled snakes, but I don't condone it. We don't show it. We don't want to have other people start trying to do that, and I don't do it very frequently. It's not the safe way of doing it. It takes a lot of experience. You start doing that on YouTube, and my personal opinion has always been kids may watch, or young people who are principal, somebody may watch like, oh, I want to do that, and get their ass bit, and so I don't promote that. So about what bucket to use, but I think it is just a Lowe's or Home Depot's bucket. I don't know. I got it already done, but I've used Lowe's, Home Depot's. The trick is they make new lids for them that are you press it with a ring on and it locks on and it has a screw top. That's what you want. What I like to do too with the bucket with that screw top is drill or melt. Doesn't matter how you put a hole, but put a couple holes in the lid so you can run a zip tie through it. So then you can pick it up off with a hook. So if something's right at the top, your hand's not there. If you're not going to use a hook, make sure when you pick that bucket up, you grab it here and you tilt it back towards you like a shield. Don't look over and pick it up and expose your arm, because I have seen things launch up out of the bucket. So a shield's good to have. Use it that way. So, all right, guys, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. We'll see y'all next time.